which is, are containers a stepping stone to implementing a true serverless environment? Has there been a power shift from central control to the application developers? Over to you, Ray.
Thank you. There's a lot to answer in those two questions. I really hope containers are a stepping stone towards a serverless environment. I think the lessons learned in, particularly as Matt said about ensuring either your application is completely stateless or in backing your applications with a reliable, persistent volume, design patterns that naturally lead towards serverless application delivery. So yeah, and the migration, the organizational migration away from spinning up your carefully curated individual virtual machine at the rate of 1 per hour as you're watching Packer or something deploy this, towards your container orchestration solution, which is bringing up 10 of them in 10 seconds. And then the migration from there towards thousands of individual functions responding to HTTP requests or triggers coming up and disappearing at a rate of knots that you no longer need to carefully shepherd. I think I want to borrow Matt's pets to cattle to bacteria analogy that we were discussing yesterday, because it's incredibly appropriate with regards to the degrees with which you have to micromanage these solutions. And moving on to the next question, I really believe that we want this to be a power shift away from central control, the central tight management of this infrastructure towards the ability for developers to spin these up and down. That's the beauty that Kubernetes offers in that we have role-based access control for namespace, per resource, and you're given an awful lot of options to restrict data flow or enable flexibility for application developers to explore in a controlled fashion while mitigating costs and security concerns. Yeah, I really hope that there is that shift.
Great. Matt?
Yeah. Like Ray was saying, 12 years ago, I was an enterprise architect, and I used to spend my time running between the operations team, who would tell me, geez, those guys can't code. How much memory do we need? What's wrong with the Java garbage recovery for memory? I'd run across the developers and they'd go, why do we spend thousands of dollars on computers when I can go down the corner store and buy them for $10? That tension has really kind of driven where we are, right? Because the developers went, I'm not buying servers anymore. And the pets thing is because the operations team used to name their servers. The thing they cared most about was their servers. They'd all have nice little names and sticky labels on them. And that's where the focus was. And the developers are going, hang on a second, the applications that run on those things are far more important. So containers are cattle, right? And Kubernetes is like a cattle shed on a farm. You know, we stick all the containers in there. We don't care so much about the containers. We are very much focused on the applications that are running inside those containers. And as we move for bacteria, this transition to, you know, the cattle to the bacteria, suddenly these little tiny serverless functions are running and doing things and leveraging all of these powerful platforms the cloud providers have built to accelerate that customer experience and our ability to create something really new and differentiated for our customers. So I think that's what's going on.
Excellent. Andrew?
Yeah, and I think just to continue on that, and I might push the analogy one step further, which is I would almost suggest that, you know, on all these solutions and almost any of the applications that enterprises use today, data out of that is the most critical component. The application effectively is nothing without data. So to talk about, is there a power shift? Absolutely. I think, and for the better, we get this position where developers can now innovate faster than ever before. The innovation does ultimately center around data, which in the analogy might be the grass that the cattle's eating So I think to say that there's decentralization of control, absolutely. I think having said that, there still needs to maintain a governance and standards with that, so that whilst you do go off and innovate, it still needs to be within the realms of various regulatory controls or various enterprise compliance controls. And I think from the perspective of where that goes, a lot of the work that we've been doing with NetApp and others has seen us allowed us to decouple the application from the data. And we end up in this position then that we can do these microservices and we can do these containers that do make use of the enterprise's asset, which is the data, but in a far more rapid and rapidly evolving way than ever before. And that's the exciting part, being able to innovate almost at the speed of thought, by virtue of the fact that you can decentralize the thought process and the control. But it's still also important to remember that we need to maintain some governance just to protect that data, which obviously is a really, really valuable asset.